That's the last time.
I haven't used a gavel in 19 years. This one was one that was given to me by my mother-in-law when I got elected the first time. So I thought after the last court meeting I might need it today. Last meeting was kind of out of the sort. So anyway, I thought it'd be fun to have it one last time. Okay, let's go ahead and call our meeting to order. We'll begin this meeting as we do each meeting with prayer, and then we'll do the pledge, if you'll bow with me. Father, we are so grateful that we can approach your throne and know that the God of all creation, the God of the universe, wants to be our personal Lord and Savior, and you offer yourself to us through your Son, Jesus Christ. And I pray that during this time of the year, as we think about the birth of your Son, that we will be reminded through the outward testimony and witness and through your Holy Spirit convicting us of our need to have a relationship with you in a personal way. Father, I thank you for the folks around this table, the people in this room who give of themselves to serve their community. I pray for all of those in leadership roles who have watch care over others, that you would help us all to be guided by what's right, what is pure and holy, and ultimately what is in accordance with your will. Father, this morning we're grateful for those who ensure our national freedoms. I pray for those who will be in harm's way even as we pray, defending freedom throughout the world, and we ask your care over them. Father, for today's work, I pray for wisdom, discernment, and for right thinking. We ask all these things in the name of Jesus, our Savior. Amen. Amen. Let's stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. This is the last major business meeting of the fiscal court for a year in. We'll have another meeting which we'll discuss at the end of the meeting about scheduling for that. But this is going to be a pretty full agenda today, so we're going to try to move through it as quickly as possible without neglecting anything that needs attention. The first item is to hear from the public. If there's anybody here from the general public, we'll certainly entertain your comments, questions, concerns. I keep saying this, that maybe somebody else will do this. We probably ought to try to make, when we do a sign-in, Pam, in the future, folks to sign in who want to speak. I know some fiscal courts do that. We never have done that, but that might be a good way to make sure we know for somebody here who wants to speak to us. So we'll move on under regular business. You've got the minutes from the November 21st regular meeting. I would entertain a motion to approve. It was a very complex meeting with lots of minutes, motions, lack of seconds, table motions, and other motions. So I hope you look through it closely to make sure that it reflects the action of the court. Motion by Blake. Is there a second on the minutes? By Bobby. All right. We'll vote on the motion. Pam?
Blake Tarpley?
Yes.
Bobby Bush?
Yes.
Marty Chandler?
Yes.
Larry Randolph?
Yes.
Jim Henderson?
Yes, and that motion passes, and the minutes become the orders of the court. Next is to authorize participation in a CAECO online auction for a body scanner at the jail. Eric, are you here?
Yes, sir.
You want to touch on that just briefly? Explain what we're doing here?
We talked about in an earlier meeting putting the body scanners out for bid, and during that process, CAECO offered a better offer on a different body scanner, and we actually talked to the manufacturer of the other body scanner, and I think it's going to be a better fit for our facility, and I think it's going to be one of those situations, if we do, Judge and I talked a little bit about this, if we do entertain going with this other company through CAECO on the reverse auction, I'll be able to leave the court's contributions out and take care of it through our commissary by ourselves.
Let me mention too, I don't want you to misunderstand, what KCO provides is a service that you all are familiar with, which is on major purchases, in fact, even small purchases. You can allow them to do essentially like an eBay type auction where people can bid, but it's a reverse auction. They're bidding against themselves and against other bidders to the lowest price. So you open that up for a period of time, sometimes it's 10 minutes. You've notified all the prospective bidders, and they can just keep bidding until the price is at the lowest price. I mean, they're bidding against each other for the best price. So we think that the price on this body scanner through the last auction that KCO did, where there were several counties, I think I included in your all's packet a notice from them back in September where they were doing that. At the time, Eric had another vendor kind of as a preferred vendor that we were looking at, but when they did that reverse auction back in September, I think the low bid in that auction was around 120,000-ish. If you remember, the low bid on the 2 sealed bid proposals was $189,000. So we think if we do this reverse auction that we are likely to see something closer to that 120 number, maybe even less, now that there's a baseline that's already been established out there. So
If it's all right for me to speak on what we conversed about.
Yeah.
The other vendor, we did talk, and they said that in the next reverse auction, which was this one we're talking about now, the present one, that the bid would be right at the same money. It's going to be about 118,750-ish, something like that. There is one component that goes with it that's $4,000. I do definitely want that $4,000 component, which is going to take us around 122, which if y'all are okay with, I think this is the best direction for us to go.
okay, so what we need is a motion to authorize participation in the KCO online auction for a body scanner at the jail. That's what we need. Motion by Bobby. Is there a second? Second by Larry. Any further discussion?
How many jails were wanting one? I mean, how?
These things are starting to go statewide. I mean, there's a lot of jailers that got on board, and it's not just for the jail. That's what I want you to know. This is not just for the jail. It's going to be in the jail. We're going to utilize it every day. But the sheriff, if he has any questions on a call and he wants somebody to go through that scanner, sheriff, bring them through, and it'll confirm what their suspicions are. The Franklin Police, State Police, KBE, we're going to welcome all of them to use it if needed.
But it'll be a pretty big deal for KCO to have several jails involved.
There's been several that have been involved.
It's a pretty good liability reducer.
Good.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Pam will call the roll,
Was
please.
it Bush and Randolph?
Yes.
Thank you. Bobby Bush?
Yes.
Larry Randolph?
Yes.
Marty Chandler?
Yes.
Blake Tarpley?
Yes.
Jim Henderson?
Yes. All right, that motion passes. Thank you,
Thank you,
Jailer
sir.
Vaughn. Next is to review and approve the second reading and final passage of fiscal year 17-18 budget ordinance number 220.195. This is our second budget amendment for the year. I explained this in detail at the last meeting. I entertain questions if you have any. I know we had some conversation about some of these things, whether or not to do them or not, so.
Personally, I move to approve.
All right, there's a motion to approve by Marty, second by Blake, to approve second reading and final passage of the budget amendment ordinance 220.195, total amount $361,500. Reminder that 150 and 120 specifically for the road, the remainder for the general and the jail. So, okay, if there's no further questions, we'll vote on the motion. Pam.
Marty Chandler?
Yes.
Blake Tarpley?
Yes.
Larry Randolph?
Yes.
Bobby Bush?
Yes.
Jim Henderson?
Yes. Motion passes. All right. In an effort to not have a meeting where we don't talk about how we reimburse employees for meals, I've got what I hope, I can assure you, will be my last attempt at trying to help you all figure this out, but maybe it'll be the last for a while. I included, in fact, it's fairly fresh on your portal. I've taken, and I included a lot of stuff in there for you. Just wanted you to see again. Most of this stuff is not reinventing the wheel. and most of this has been tested and proven or not, proven not to be something you can do. And so I thought I captured the essence of our conversation from last meeting, and there's none of this that's set in stone. In fact, I think what would be in order eventually, if this is acceptable, would be to approve this as the policy. Maybe not today, maybe, but then ultimately it needs to be amended. The administrative code needs to be amended, which has to be done by ordinance to incorporate this into the administrative code. And so I cut out the section of the administrative code that now has expense reimbursement explained. And I'm going to just go over it. In fact, I'm going to read it word for word, the changes, and let you all ask questions.
Which one of these? I've got two. Which one of these?
This would be section 3.56, expense reimbursement. It's a scanned-in document, I'm sorry, and the way it's listed on your portal, it says meal something or another amend.
I've got
Meal
meal
guidance.
guidance.
Meal guidance.
And then I've got meal guidance various policies.
Yeah, this would be,
That's all I got.
well, you just had it pulled up, Marty, so what was
Well, it
it
was
under?
under meal guidance,
Additional?
I think. Yeah, no, the additional was where we made the motion. It's under the various policies.
And that one shows, starts out with WKU.
Yeah, it may be, is it the end of that, Marty? Is that where that was?
Yeah.
Well, those were just all various policies. No, it's not. I apologize.
3.125?
Has anybody not refreshed their, I scanned it in there last night, yesterday afternoon late. I tell you what, Pam, I thought it was in there. Yeah, here, you got
See
it.
how that starts.
I thought you had it pulled up. It pulls up the actual administrative code section. Just hold on, it's not on there. I can't find it either, so I thought I scanned it in. Let's go to something else. She's gonna get you a copy and we'll come back to that, so. Let's go to the garden club proposal. Something less controversial. We had a discussion last meeting about a proposal. For the record, it was not a $15,000 request. I know the paper, I mean, listen, everybody makes mistakes. I'm not fussing. I'm just saying, it said in the paper the request was for $15,000. The request was for $1,500, up to $1,500 from the county. They had money given to the garden club in memory of a member who passed away, and they would like to rebuild the well house out here on the southwest lawn. And so we discussed last meeting just authorizing that and allowing or also committing up to $1,500 for the cost of that project if needed. You all asked for some type of a drawing of what they were proposing to build, and in their best efforts, they've not hired an architect or anybody like that. They're working on a shoestring budget, but in their best efforts, they've given us a drawing. I think it's going to be some type of a stone base with a top on it, much like an archaic well house of pre-Civil War, because the Hudspeth well, I think, was even maybe gone in use by the time of the Civil War. So it was like in the early 1800s, late 1700s, around the turn of the century. So everybody saw the drawing. Any questions? Camille offered to come and speak. I asked her, honestly, I don't think it was necessary considering the agenda today being pretty tight. So
Only question I have, are they gonna cover, this well will be actually covered?
well, I think that would be our decision.
Bill in here, there's some other things he's gonna have to do to get it ready.
Yeah, I mean, the safety and security of the well itself is not going to be under the responsibility of the garden club. They're just going to build an outside structure.
I was just thinking,
Just a visual.
so somebody wouldn't actually follow.
Yeah, I think we'll make sure it's secure, that's for sure.
Well, I'll make the motion again.
Okay, we've got a motion to approve the project as loosely described and drawn out here, with a new well house, and authorize the county to participate up to $1,500 toward the project.
Could we add to that motion, would it upset you to add that motion to have them work with Bill and the Renaissance to make sure it's satisfactory to them?
To work with our maintenance supervisor and the Renaissance to coordinate the project.
I'll second.
Okay, we've got a motion by Blake and a second by Larry. Any questions on the motion?
I like the idea they're gonna pick up rock in Simpson County and use them.
I got somebody there.
There won't be a shortage of rock to find in Simpson County. Okay, we'll vote on the motion, Pam.
Blake Tarpley,
Yes.
Larry Randolph,
Yes.
Marty Chandler,
Yes.
Bobby Bush.
Yes.
Jim Henderson.
Yes, motion passes. Pam, you got our copies for the meal discussion? Hey, thank you. Multitasking treasurer. Thank you. Do more with less, that's what we do here. All right. There's additional copies of, Sheriff,
I
we
didn't know
talked a
some of
little
the
bit about
department heads
this
liked.
already. Let's see, Eric, you might put that. There's a lot of travel with the county that might need occasional information on that, so. I also neglected to recognize, I should have, Isaac Meyer, who's here with the governor's office. He's here for the day today. We're so glad to have Isaac with us. He does a great job representing Governor Bevin in our region, and we're glad to have him here this morning. Did you have anything you wanted to say or address, give us an update on pension or anything?
I wish.
Yeah, all
No, I
right.
don't have one at this
Yeah,
time.
thank you. That's probably just as well right now. All right. So you've got this. Let me just briefly explain the changes from the current policy and what I've incorporated based on your all's conversation. So there was discussion about, in spite of the fact that every policy that I've looked at, that I've copied to you, has a description of time, which I'm sure has emerged because there was always questions about that. You all didn't like that, so I decided, I took what you said and tried to work around that. And so what we've incorporated here is for two descriptions of meal expense reimbursement. One is for meals that are overnight travel. And in that description, it says expense for meals during an authorized out-of-county travel at a destination more than 40 miles from the individual's workstation and which requires an overnight absence will be reimbursed on an actual expense basis up to a maximum of $35 per day. Gratuities of up to 20% included in the daily maximum shall be eligible for reimbursement. Itemized receipts shall still be required to claim the expense. Let me explain the change. Previously, we had a breakfast amount, a lunch amount, a supper amount. They had time slots. This simply creates a daily max. You spend $5 on breakfast and 10 on lunch and the rest on supper. If you skip breakfast, you don't eat lunch, whatever, you can turn in for the day, whatever, if you have 5 different small meals, small little, candy bar and cold drink, if that's what you call a meal, and turn it in, daily maximum $35. That seemed to be a mid-range that I saw in several of these policies, and so there's that. Meals that are included in the charge for lodging or in registration fees paid by or on behalf of the individual may not be reimbursed. Obviously, if you have a lunch included, and that creates a whole other set of questions, but how do you proportionately take off if there's a dinner included in a conference for that day? I think that's still probably something to figure out the details of, but that it would be trying to make it general and give you freedom to interpret, but also make sure we don't leave too many unanswered questions. No one may claim an expense reimbursement for another individual. That kind of addresses the concern. Sometimes I'll pick up Marty's, and if we were just doing purely receipts, it wouldn't make much difference. But if you got a $35 max and I pick up Marty's supper and then I turn it in and I'm over the 35 max and I try to say, well, that was his 35 max and my 35 max and my entitled to $70, it just gets great. So everybody turning their own receipts, everybody gets their own individual reimbursement and nobody turns in for somebody else. Now, here's the day travel issue. This kind of addresses the sheriff's concern, and I think the jailer's concern that I think sounds reasonable. I still have some concern about the some of the policies that are out there that deal with this, but I've included it, and I think this is, again, in the spirit of what you all discussed. In certain circumstances, subject to the approval of the appropriate constitutional officer or designee and/or the judge executive, which means this would be fully on the responsibility of the sheriff, the jailer, the clerk, or myself to approve this. An individual may be eligible for a day travel per diem of up to $10, and still itemized receipts required. And so, again, these are for these day trips. You're driving all the way across the state. This is consistent with something the sheriff was going to try to put in his policy and procedure manual. I think this will allow for that, maybe without much modification in his own policies. Then you move on down to, again, just a little bit of clarification under Section D. Just making sure we all understand what an itemized receipt means. Sometimes that is in question. And this is right out of language, right out of a state policy. An itemized receipt means any original pre-printed invoice from a hotel, restaurant, or other establishment showing the date of service, detailed list of charges, and the location of the changes. Unitemized receipts or unitemized credit card receipts or monthly statements are not acceptable. Almost everything I've got in here, I've given you a copy of another policy where this wording is exactly the same. The only other thing I added, and I felt like this was just in the spirit of transparency, it kind of holds us all accountable, is under Section E, that all travel and expense reimbursement vouchers shall be available to the fiscal court for review and must be approved by a separate motion of the fiscal court. I like the idea of every meeting when we have those, they're out here, you can look at them. If you got a question over why Marty spent $30 on a dinner, you probably won't ask him out loud, but you might want to. But you might be more inclined to, or we all might be more inclined to be more accountable, not that we're not, to that process if we know that everybody's stuff's laying out here and we all have to be answerable to that. So those are the changes I made. I hope they encapsulate the spirit of what you all have talked about last meeting. I'll entertain questions.
I'd like to hear the sheriff and jailer just say what they think about this.
Sheriff, the question, I know they're hard to hear back there. The question was, does that kind of cover the spirit of what we talked about with the sheriff's office?
It covers it for us. And it's not a thing that happens often, probably a couple of times a month. Send somebody to Pikeville to pick a prisoner up and come back, they give us some break to stop and eat. They take care of it.
Sorry. Jailer feel the same way?
I have a lot more travel than they do, so I can't stop. I have to stop at certain times, like when you drop the prisoners off, they gotta eat, blah, blah, blah. The only concern that I have, and we ran into this, and I don't know how to fix it, I even said, my judge said so, I told them that. We went to a Mexican restaurant one time, and they would not give us an itemized receipt. We could not get it. And we were in the guidelines of everything else. As a matter of fact, we were at I think we were at a CAECO conference, and it was the Mexican restaurant right down there by the Louisville Slugger place.
So you just can't stop that restaurant?
We know that now, but it caused all kinds of controversy, but,
I think we should be diligent,
You
each
take a
of us,
picture of your meal?
if we go, well, I think if we go to a place and we know we're gonna turn it in, is we just verify. And honestly, there are a few places, mom and pops, that sometimes maybe would be a little questionable about what type of receipt they produce, because they may not have a computer system or whatever. We just need to ask probably our waitress, waiter, who host us, can we get an itemized receipt? That's if we're gonna turn it in.
right, well, I mean, when you walk in with 6 or 8, and it's like, oh, we don't have itemized receipts, and you turn around and, we're already seated and we walk out, it's kind of embarrassing, but, I mean, I don't think we abuse it at all, it's just, it says right here, itemized, you sit down and eat, we don't have itemized tickets. We're still within the guidelines of under the $35, that's the only thing that I've got. So,
All right, thank you.
thanks.
Okay, any other questions on the policy?
Nicole, how do you think You think this will be easier on you than what we've been doing?
I mean, I think so. I mean, I like to look at them. I like to, scrutinize them. I mean, I want it to be right. I mean, if we're reimbursing, I want it to be right. So, I mean, I like to thoroughly look through them and make sure they're all in compliance.
But this will be easier than looking to see what hour they ate and all that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah, as far as figuring the times, it'll be a lot easier.
Okay.
But I do agree that there needs to be itemized receipts.
Good.
Okay, any other questions on the court?
That sounds
Again, if you want to, I mean, it's your call today, you don't have to necessarily do anything today, but we do need to give some guidance, either, again, you can approve this as our policy, and then obviously you will incorporate it into the administrative code at some later point, where we'll have a first reading, second reading with amendments, so.
Just out of curiosity, if each one of these has got to be approved by the fiscal court, that's going to be several of them for the jail.
Well, it'd just be a lump sum. I mean, each meeting, if, you know,
Approve each one.
no. That just means, we just won't lump it in with the claims. There'll be a travel approval, if there's any travel vouchers that meeting, and if there's 5, it'll be one motion.
Okay, I read that.
No. I didn't mean to suggest
But
that.
it'll be something we can look at,
Yes.
separate from the claim.
That's right. Yeah. Okay, any further questions? All right, what do you want to do? You want to vote on something today?
I move to approve this travel policy.
Okay, we've got a motion to approve the presented expense reimbursement policy as amended. How about that? And you have it included here. Marty made the motion.
I'll second
Second by Bobby. This is only the third one we've approved this year.
Until the next one comes up.
That's right. All
I'll
right.
second it until the next one.
Third time's a charm.
Pam will vote on the motion.
Okay, well, it's Marty and.
Bobby Bush.
Thank you. Marty Chandler,
Yes.
Bobby Bush.
Yes.
Larry Randolph. Did he say yes?
Who's that?
Yes.
Larry?
Yes, okay, thanks. Blake Tarpley.
Yes.
Jim Henderson.
Yes. All right, that motion passes. You also have a couple of board appointments that are listed. One is for the library board. You see that there's actually 2 names submitted there for the term of Leslie Sanders, who is expiring on January 1. And as is normally the case, they will list the names maybe in the order of their willingness to serve. I can only assume that that's the way it is here. I don't think I had a specific conversation with Audrey about this. Do you know, Bobby? Is Mary Lou Matthews the preferred
Yes.
Yes.
appointee? So,
And, go ahead.
no, I mean, that's all my question is.
Yes, it is.
Okay, then we would entertain a motion to appoint Mary Lou Matthews to the library, Goodnight Memorial Library Board of Trustees for a term, 4-year term, beginning January 1,
Are you
2018.
gonna include, because there's 2, are you gonna do like both nominees and both appointees in one?
There's not 2 appointments.
They're just one or the other.
Well, no, there's 2.
There's actually 2.
There's
Paul
Sam
Raines is
Starks
going
and Kevin.
Paul Raines is going
on.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see the second page.
Oh,
So we need a, so both.
There are 2 appointments, I apologize, I was looking at the 2 names, knowing one was for,
yeah, I mean.
yeah.
Oh.
And then also, the term of Paul Raines is expiring, I'm sorry, I didn't see the second page. And we hereby submit the following names: Sam Starks is one option, and Kevin Campbell is another.
Mr.
So-
Starks is also,
What's the, you want to make the motion, Bobby? You're
Yeah.
on the board.
Yes. To spark to the,
Appoint Mary Lou Matthews and Sam Starks to the Library Board
I'll
of
make that motion.
Trustees.
I'll second it.
Okay, got a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Pam will vote on the motion. Thank you for clearing that up for us.
Bobby Bush.
yes.
Blake Tarpley.
Yes.
Larry Randolph.
Yes.
Marty Chandler.
Yes.
Jim Henderson.
Yes, motion passes. Okay, let me read this next one a little closer then. This is for the Extension District Board. Here are the names that we have recommended. The 2 top names are previously serving, and they are the ones that they would prefer. The 2 names on the bottom are options for us if the other 2 are not satisfactory. So you see that Catherine McCutcheon and David Carver are current members who are willing to continue serving on the Extension District Board if the court is so inclined.
So,
Motion by Marty,
I'll second.
second by Larry to reappoint Catherine McCutcheon and David Carver to the Extension District Board. Pam will vote on the motion, please. Thank you.
Marty Chandler,
yes.
Larry Randolph,
Yes.
Bobby Bush.
Yes.
Blake Tarpley,
Yes.
Jim Henderson,
Yes. I just swallowed my coffee, sorry. No hesitation on that vote, please. Motion passes. Next, I've got an announcement that I thought would be nice to make here toward the end of the year. I was notified just yesterday. I love how I got notified too, by the way. We got an agreement sent to us. That's like super good notification. That means not only have you got it, but here you go and start moving. That we were approved for $240,000 towards the replacement of the Barnes School Road Bridge. And that tells me, because of that amount, that they have included the approach work and the necessary grade work as eligible for the project, because 240 would be an 80% number. So we are eligible to be reimbursed up to $240,000 as long as that's no more than 80% of the total project. So if the project were to cost $300,000 or more, we'll get the full 240. So that's very promising. I had put 200 in the budget, hoping we could get that. So that's much better than we expected, and certainly we express our thanks to the governor, to Secretary Thomas, Commissioner Reese, and those who reviewed this application for us. We put together a really strong application, sent the drawings, plans, and everything on the project. So if the court is inclined to support moving forward, we have a resolution, I think you scanned it in, didn't you, Pam, that we could approve today, which would authorize, entering into a memorandum of agreement with the Transportation Cabinet and authorizing me to sign it and submit it, probably pushing it to get it back before the end of the year, but that's fine because we're still working on a couple of issues to get that project ready to go anyway. And so, Marty, any thoughts?
So moved.
Okay, motion by Marty to approve the resolution.
Second.
By, second by Bobby Bush to the same motion. Bobby Groves, are you within earshot? Yeah. It says here, be sure nothing can be done on that until we get concurrence from Chief District Engineer. And also, we can't do any work on that. I know we're going to do some work on that road work ourselves once we get to where we can, but we'll need to get this back before we can do any of that. I don't think that's going to be a problem, but just making sure. Okay, Pam will vote on the motion, please.
Marty Chandler,
Yes.
Bobby Bush.
Yes.
Larry Randolph,
Yes.
Blake Tarpley,
Yes.
Jim Henderson,
Yes. Okay, I think that's it under regular business. We'll move into our financial business. And,
Transfers.
yeah, got a couple there, didn't we? Let's see here. Yep, couple of transfers there, account transfers.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Larry to approve the transfers as listed.
Second.
Second by Blake. A question on the motion? Pam, we'll vote on the motion, please.
Larry Randolph,
Yes.
Blake Tarpley,
Yes.
Marty Chandler,
Yes.
Bobby Bush.
Yes.
Jim Henderson,
Yes. Motion passes. Okay, we've got a list of claims. Those are the bills. Any questions you have on those, we'll take those up.
Joanne, on the Pitney Bowes reserve account, do you have to have so much money in an account for postage? Okay.
Are we through with the fresh winter project? Is all that money coming in?
Yes. Any other questions? Yep, take your time. the last thing I want us to brush over are the claims. I like you to look at them. In fact, I noticed, or you should notice, it's in the claims here, that half of our contribution to the Boys and Girls Club is included in the claims, $12,500. Also, you should note, and I'm going to ask for Leslie to give us a brief report here in a minute, that we're making the final payment on the fire truck that was set to pay off this year. And do what?
December 20th.
Yeah, and it's included. That's about a $25,000 a year budget line item in the fire department budget. And don't worry, just because that's paid off does not mean they don't want the money. In fact, Leslie's going to explain to us here in a minute.
He's listening.
Yeah. It's why he's wearing his good clothes today. You got his best uniform on to ask for money. So I'll call you here in a minute, Les.
All right.
And so just want them to know we paid off the old one before you ask for the new one. So also you see in there the sheriff's audit bill is in there, and I think that was about $5,800. And I think we've already gotten a copy of the audit. You know, one thing on the audits too, by the way, I might just mention, this is for you all going forward in the budget. I think it's important, while the audits themselves, I think, are a responsibility of the fiscal court. I don't know that that's like when we did in fee pool. I still think we paid the audits. Is that right, Nicole? For both the sheriff and clerk on their fee audits and tax audits and things. But it is important to know what those are because you have to budget for those. And those are pretty big ticket items. The sheriff's also going to have a tax audit coming up, after the taxes are all, I guess after the 15th of April when the final is done, they're going to close out the books. You saw in last meeting the county clerk's audits for 2016. That included both the audit for Chip and then the first audit for Jolene. Those are just expensive parts of our administrative overhead. So just, again, planning for that in the future. I think I mentioned to you all that the county's audit for the year ending June 30, 2018, which is the fiscal year we're in, will likely be done by the state auditor. The state auditor's really honed in on sheriffs and clerks here lately. They want to do those audits. We were able to get a pass 3 years ago. We've been able to have private CPA audits contracted. We've done 3 years worth of audits for 3 years for what it cost us the last time we had the state auditor do it 4 years ago. So brace for that kind of cost in the new budget because the state will want to do our audit for this year. So where we spent $12,000, $13,000, $14,000 for a $12.5 million and payroll and everything type audit, that'll probably be triple that when the state auditors do it next year. So you'll have to budget for that.
We approve the claims.
Motion by Blake to approve the claims as submitted. Second by Larry. Any questions? We'll vote on the motion, Pam.
Blake Tarpley,
Yes.
Larry Randolph,
Yes.
Marty Chandler,
Yes.
Bobby Bush.
Yes.
Jim Henderson.
Yes. Okay, as I said, today's going to be the last substantive meeting for me, and so there's a couple of loose ends I want to mention to the court just to keep in mind as you all move forward that I think are likely to be issues that will need to be addressed sooner than later. One, I mentioned to Marty, there's an interest in a private landowner, a couple of private landowners on the adoption of a road into the county maintenance system in Marty's district. And I've got some deed work that I'm probably going to give to Sam so that once they get that up to county specs, it'll be easy enough to just move forward on that. And also one of those particular landowners happens to own a small farm winery. And while we were talking about this road issue, he also mentioned, which this has not come up for us, we don't have much oversight on alcohol regulations since most of that's in the city, all of it's in the city except for the small farm winery. He had asked about getting approved for extending their winery hours. And he said that they told him at ABC in Frankfurt that maybe that was something the fiscal court would have to do. Again, I'll let him drive that discussion and bring a formal request to you, but that may happen sometime in the near future and doesn't want that to be a surprise to you. He would like the ability to, I guess, sell and maybe serve wine on Sundays. Currently, they only do that Monday through Saturday, and I don't know if that's based on some previously approved state set of guidelines when he got that approved. So that was approved by a special election, if you remember. The voters can do a small farm winery. Says he's not sure he really wants, that he might even want to do it, but occasionally maybe a wedding reception, some kind of an event that they have out there at their winery on Sunday afternoon, and would like.
One where they just voted in one precinct.
Yes, it's just in the Round Pond precinct. And so just be thinking about that. That may come up.
And the state's put a new bridge in out at the end of his drive.
Yeah, part of that 100
And
rework.
so it's part of all that 100 stuff. And he's gonna pave it on back to his place.
So he is gonna.
Yeah, he's gonna pave it.
Yep, he's going to pave it, bring it up to county standards, which is what we require. And he and a couple of landowners, while they're doing that Highway 100 work out there, trying to kind of piggyback off of the contractors being there, maybe getting some paving done. Also, another thing to be thinking about, this is not going to go away, even if we don't bring it up again, even if I don't bring it up again or you don't bring it up again, there's still going to be a question about the debt associated with the Crabtree building that the Historical Society owes to the county. I've given you a lot of information on that. I continue to provide that information to you. They would like to have that debt forgiven. In fact, they would like to have that debt forgiven and the fiscal court contribute some money to the cost of their sprinkler system. But we own the property. We have no debt against the property, but there was an arrangement with the Historical Society to pay back the county X amount of dollars. I've given you that information. I don't want to go over all that today. I just want to, that's a looming thing. I've been doing my best to try to not leave you all anything as far as a loose end. There are a few loose ends that just simply cannot or won't be addressed before the end of the year. Also, I see Michelle with us today, and one issue that will present itself to the court probably in the budget time is the Soil Conservation District's interest in some additional funding. And they have some ideas, and she'll be coming to talk to the court with maybe members of the Soil Conservation District Board in probably late January, early February is what I suggested to her during the crunch time for budget preparation work. And so you all should be prepared for an ask and maybe for some alternate funding opportunities. Doesn't that sound good? Sounds like that's some creative words for talking about how to raise money and alternative funding opportunities.
Well, next year is what?
Yeah, I need to write
I'll
that
say the
down.
other word.
I may use that in Frankfurt. So.
Fuzzy math.
Yeah. I don't think I've ever used it like that. I forget that. Okay, and then finally, under my list of y'all better watch out, is the did I say that out loud? Yeah. Is the discussion that's going on around the future function of planning and zoning. I think that there's some things that may present themselves to you all maybe after I leave that you all should be paying attention to. We have some interlocal agreements on that. There are some things that you just need to be paying attention to and making sure that we're a part of that conversation. There are discussions about maybe doing that differently. Some of those discussions we would probably not be opposed to. So just kind of watch out. Just pay attention and be listening about that. There are planning and zoning regulations being rewritten, comprehensive plan work underway. All of that is probably going to fall in your lap sometime after the first of the year. So there will be some decisions to be made in all that.
Do you have any idea of what percentage of the planning and zoning permits are city versus county? Have you ever seen that number?
I don't know because we don't break it out. But a lot of the development in terms of industrial and commercial development in particular is in the city limits. Of course, the city limits, almost stretch to Woodburn, and they go to the Tennessee line, and they go out east of exit 6. So all the development corridors are pretty much in the city limits.
I know right now, we're going 50/50 on all the expense, so I was just kind of curious as
Yeah, probably something like 80-20, 80 for y'all, and so I'm just kidding about that.
to be right like the Could be like the
Yeah, but here's the problem, Larry, and just you're quick on the math, is if it's proportionate to the use or the work, they may also be talking about proportionate to the revenue. So if the revenue is proportionately generated from activity in the city, there might be some discussion about that being proportionately credited toward the work too. So again, I'm not saying these conversations shouldn't happen. A little disappointed that they're not really happening, but I think they will occur, and so you all should be paying attention, because I just think that you've got some time. There's a 180-day out in their interlocal agreement. So if our friends across the street decide to do something different and present that to you, that you've got 180 days to react to that. But I do think there's some likelihood of changes, and I'm not a part of that conversation right now, so you all should be listening as that conversation evolves at the first of the year. I think that covers my reports of meat. Leslie?
Yes.
I think I'll let you report now, because by the time we get to department head supervisors, the patience may wear out. That's not fair to you.
Talk
All
about the
right.
financial statement.
Huh?
Well,
Oh, yes, I apologize.
no, we're gonna have to hold on, because.
Yeah, Megan's been having a little issue with our computer software on the financial
But
statement.
it just moved it to a different place.
So we are not, we cannot approve the financial statement. But thank you for your efforts, for working late and getting here early and still not having it right. But thank you. Thank you for your effort. Thank you. She's a great sport, by the way.
Left-handed compliment.
She can dish it out and she can take it. So,
Backhanded compliment.
yeah. Les, tell us about, you want to give us an update on the
Yep.
interlocal
Glad to.
agreements?
Okay, so the interlocal agreement, just give you a little update on that. Friday, I went
With
to
Warren
the-
County on the
Yeah, the
Woodburn.
Yes. I went to the Warren County fiscal court meeting. They had their first reading on it, and, it passed through. They just had a couple of questions. I answered it, and, they view it as a win-win, as do I. So it's going to help them out a little bit. It's going to help Woodburn. It'll generate a little bit of revenue for them, and it's going to offer better fire protection for our citizens in the north, and then hopefully help lower our overall ISO rating. So that's where we're at on that. They meet again, I believe, on the 15th for their second reading on that, and then we'll take it up.
This goes through that easy and smooth and Plano should.
Yeah, I've already talked to them about that. I've already talked to the chief at Plano. He's already talked to their board. Then I talked to the lawyer, Sarah Bessinger, in the Warren County Attorney's Office, is the one that's been handling it for us. And told her, what to expect, and so we're anticipating a smooth. Now, it's been pretty bumpy up to this point. Sam and I have been back and forth, and he's been back with the Warren County Attorney's Office, and they've been wanting to tweak some. We did make one minor change, and you guys do have a copy of that on the last set of documents that you would receive. They just wanted some other assurances that, for whatever reason, Woodburn wouldn't be financially responsible for any kind of, if someone opted out and didn't pay dues, that, they would get their monies back. So Sam put some 2 sentences in there to change the wording.
Basically, if you don't mind me interjecting.
No, absolutely, go ahead.
Basically, what it is if someone doesn't pay their membership fee or dues, and there's a fire, and Warren County, Woodburn people respond, they're gonna wanna get reimbursed for their expenses. So, which makes sense, they respond. And so the Warren County Fiscal Court, through the Warren County Attorney's Office, Ms. Bessinger, the assistant I've been dealing with, Leslie's been dealing with, basically wanted some change to make sure that there's no gray area, that if they're making a call, answering a call in Simpson County, that Warren County is not responsible for the expense. Either they're paid their dues or they're gonna get billed for the whole amount of the run, which I think is only fair. And so I put that in there. I was gonna say, if they've done first reading, I would not be averse to us taking a first reading on it. And
Now, when you say that, how did it get collected? What would be it if somebody wasn't on?
Well, that, and to
What would be
me,
the charge?
I think it was already addressed in there. I think this was just kind of redundant, but basically the process
belt
would
and
be.
suspenders,
Pardon?
belt and suspenders.
So if no one, if they opted out and, you know, there was an event, then Warren County would send a bill, you know, for an itemized bill for their time, you know, whatever, then it would be incumbent upon us to collect that. So it would be.
We will pay that to Warren County.
Yes, but we would be responsible
So then it'll
for,
be up to us to get it back from the landowner.
yes.
They don't want to be involved in collecting.
Yeah, they don't want to be, yes, that's
Right,
right.
I understand that, but
Yeah.
what kind of range would you, I know it would be different on where they're county.
It could be
We talking dollar wise?
Yeah,
I mean, it could be fairly significant. I mean, I'm gonna,
They
I
have a
would-
mechanism by charging by hour, man.
they do,
truck. They have a
yeah.
system
I mean, I wouldn't
they can
anticipate a
calculate.
bill, I mean, honestly, being $1,500 or something of that nature. I mean, you know.
I guess my other question would be, if an individual says they opted out, they didn't call Woodward, what would be our grounds for saying, well, you still have to pay us, even though they're saying, well, we didn't tell you to call Woodward?
Because we've had-
Because
It's in the ordinance, it's gonna happen. I mean, it's part
So
of,
the ordinance are bound by
Then,
it.
should we give them an option to opt out?
Well, that's what y'all wanted.
Yeah, but I didn't.
well, I mean, if you
it was not
don't,
plainly that they was gonna get billed if they opted out.
yeah,
Well, the problem is, Woodward's a first responder or they're not.
yeah.
They don't get to decide who
Yeah.
gets called. If they call 911 for a fire or someone else,
And I understand
Yeah,
that, but when we said they could opt out of it.
they can opt out of not paying that fee annually.
Yes.
But when they do that, they run the risk.
Yes. And
of if
that,
they need them.
I thought
so there is a form in this ordinance that says, if you wanna opt out, they get a form, they fill it out and say, I acknowledge the fact that I do not want to pay the annual dues, but if there is an event, Woodburn responds, I am responsible for that.
I want to be,
tax.
the reason I'm asking so many questions, because I want to be able to explain to people.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Yeah,
Because
please
they're,
do.
these are the questions they're gonna ask.
Yeah, and-
They're
and
say,
you're gonna-
I opted out,
We-
I did not call Woodward, you all called Woodward, I don't feel I'm responsible.
Yeah. And that would be.
I see that scenario happen.
And I see them getting sued and us trying to collect it. I just, and that's,
Yeah.
I hear what you're saying. And
It's
every,
just like every county's got it the same way.
I mean, the problem is, there are always gonna be people who are saying, well, I don't wanna pay anything.
Yeah.
Right.
And, you know, I see what you're saying, but I mean, this is the only way it works. Either Woodburn's a first responder or they're not.
Okay.
Yeah, there's no way for us to pick
And
and
if it's on the
choose.
opt-out form, when they sign saying, I'm on the hook, that's another way they could say, you can argue, well, you knew about it when you signed this thing, and they say, well, I didn't read it. Well, you know, that's on them. I mean, you don't get out of something by saying, I didn't read it.
Be prepared on this, and we're gonna move on,
Yeah.
fire truck. Be prepared on this to have a first reading at the first meeting in January. is what we'll do.
Just remind me again how the dues are collected. What is
On
it?
the tax bill.
It's on the
Yeah.
On your tax
Mhm.
bill. $50 for a homeowner, $75 for a business.
I think,
It'll be assessed on your parcel
Yeah.
property tax when you pay your property taxes.
I believe it was 70, wasn't it? 70 per business, I think so it was.
On every
Yes.
sale.
Yeah, I think it was 70 on there,
We answered all my questions.
yeah. Okay, yeah, I mean, I'm happy to.
So again, they'll have second reading, when they have second?
I believe it was the 15th is their
Okay,
next.
so we don't need to have a first reading, if they have second reading, they couldn't balk for some reason. So then it'll become officially approved by them. Again, you all should be prepared to have a first reading on the second day of January, at the first meeting of the year, so.
All right.
Okay, let's talk about fire truck.
Okay, let's talk about fire truck.
Okay.
This past year, we have one engine that did not pass its annual pump test, so it is in need of replacement. So I'm looking at taking one of our engines that's here in town, that's the oldest one that we're running, here in town, and pushing it out to the substation. And that engine, the engine that failed is out at one of the substations, and we'll surplus that truck or whatever. But I have to have a truck to replace this one. I picked the oldest truck. It's engine 8. It's a 98 model, and it is kind of our workhorse. We use it first line on just about every call. The only issue that we really have with the truck is we do replace turbos in it about every 5 years. It has something to do. I don't pretend to understand the finer points of it, but something to do with the Jake brake on it. It's not a Jake brand. It's something to do with whatever particular Cummins put in them, but it's given us a lot of fits. So we replaced it about 2 years ago. If we go ahead and push that truck out, I think it'd be reasonable to say we could probably, no more than those trucks are used, it could sit out there, and we have to do very little maintenance to it for the rest of its life. Otherwise, if we don't, here in the next couple of years, we're going to be spending another $10,000 just putting a turbo on that. So what I would like to do is, again, as you guys know, we run a lot of car wrecks. That's about 50% of our call volume. We're using all of our rescue truck on a pumper or an engine, which basically just has smaller compartments. So what we're looking at is going to a rescue pumper, still meets all the pumper capabilities, has the same amount of water, same pump. The compartments are just bigger, the way it's configured. So that's going to increase our abilities a little bit. We'll be able to include more equipment on there that we've got spread out, or not on the truck at the current time. Like I said, we're paying off our truck 20, our tanker, this month, and I think we had a note on that for $250,000. This truck that we're looking at, I ballparked it at $350,000. We did a general spec. I told the guys kind of what we wanted, and they came back with $349,000. So
It's almost $350,000.
that's almost
What about
$350,000.
the reverse auction from Keiko? Do they have a fire truck?
The problem is, you can buy trucks. You can go out and buy trucks that are stock, and there are some programs. Spartan has a 180-day program, but you get it as it is. If you want, like for instance, a discharge going into the rear, it comes on the right. I happen to want it on the left, and that just totally, they can't do it. They just totally, so. Because I don't know that they would customize it on a reverse auction, I guess is what I'm saying.
We can explore that.
I mean, yeah, it's certainly an option. We can look at it.
I would definitely look at it.
Here's a couple things that you need to be thinking about. Is obviously, if we were going to stay budget neutral with the fire department, which I'm not sure that anybody's going to be budget neutral in the new budget, but if we were to stay budget neutral, you've got $25,000-ish allocated for a payment. That won't pay for a $350,000 truck, amortized, I can never say that word very well, set up on payments, over 10 years.
Amortized.
At 0% interest, it would pay you $250,000 over 10 years. So you got a couple of problems. One is, do you have the future allocation for a new truck at $25,000? Two, do you have a future allocation for a new truck at more than $25,000? Three, if you don't, what are you going to do? And there's probably 4 or 5 options too. Here's my recommendation to you, and that's all it is you got to have this truck, okay? There's no question you got to have this truck. ISO, keeping the ratings right in the county. We got to replace this one truck that's in the county, one of the substations, and this is Leslie's analyzed the best case scenario. He's very frugal. I appreciate that very much. much like his predecessor chief, he doesn't spend money that's not needed, and I do appreciate that a lot. But they gotta have his truck. Here's my suggestion to you, is that we entered into an interlocal agreement with the city in 2006 for fire protection for the city and the county. In that agreement, they agreed that we would share major equipment purchases if we requested that. You can look at the agreement, I didn't copy it for you today. We bought 2 major pieces of equipment in that time, 2 tanker trucks, brand spanking new tanker trucks. Those are primarily for rural firefighting. In the city, you've got access to a lot of hydrants, although not everywhere. But the tanker trucks are primarily for rural firefighting. We've not asked the city to pay for any new equipment purchase since we've entered into that interlocal agreement now 11 years ago. Leslie also knows that we will eventually, probably in 10 years or less, need a new ladder truck. You think a tanker costs a lot of money. Wait till you get the spec sheet on a ladder truck. That's probably $1 million, okay? That's primarily an urban firefighting piece of equipment. Tall buildings, industrial project facilities, etc. That's kind of going to be the huge ask when that need occurs. But my suggestion is that you plan for and decide this maybe in January. Decide maybe in January if you're going to go ahead and bid out for a new fire truck after you've asked for the city to help share in that cost. I think this is going to be the first ask for that. You know, if you could get the truck for $350, and if you could split the cost with the city 50-50, the $25,000 in our budget would more than cover our half of the cost. That's just a suggestion I'm making to you guys. Ultimately, it'll be your decision. But right now, you need to be thinking about how we're going to buy a new fire truck soon.
A couple of things on that. I was hoping the $350 was a little high, and it was going to leave a little money for equipment, hoses, that type of stuff. Obviously, I mean, it's going to take every bit of it. I think we can cover most everything off of 8, and not have to purchase too much additional equipment, nozzles and whatnot. But I do carry enough in my normal line item budget. I think I can cover all that type stuff. You mentioned the tankers, and yes, we did with the purpose, the tankers for the rural firefighting. But we do change the way, kind of the way we respond a little bit. We roll out, even in the city, on every call. If it's a fire, we roll out with 1,000 gallons on the engine, and we follow it with a tanker, even if we're right there at a hydrant. So we show up with 3,000 gallons, and generally, if you can't put a fire out with 3,000 gallons of water, then it's a bad day anyway. We are using that truck quite a bit in the city. And also, let me throw this out there. If we don't purchase a new truck, we still have to have something in that. We have to have an engine out in that district station. So if we don't go the new route, then we're going to be looking at purchasing a used truck. Trying to find one that is capable of passing an annual pump test can be tricky. We got really lucky 2-3 years ago. We purchased one for I can't remember. I want to say it was $15,000, $14,000, somewhere in there. That's a rare find, but I mean we're going to be spending $20,000 probably trying to find another truck just to put out there. And I hate to throw good money after bad. So.
Okay, good report. Yep, question?
What's the advantage of having a discharge on the left side? You said they come.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, well, the reason, I might have said discharge, I meant intake.
Oh.
The only reason I said that was because we're trying to just streamline this truck to make it more efficient. We went and looked at a lot of different trucks, and people that are doing this, generally we put all our firefighting equipment on the left side of the truck, okay? So the rescue equipment on the right side of the truck. Well, we have more rescue equipment, and the reason we do that is just because, that's more apt to be off the road. And the reason the intake just comes on the right side, but it takes up about that much of your compartment space all the way down through there. So I just requested we move it to the left, because there's more room on the left side. So we're absolutely going to fill this truck up already.
Larry, your question?
The truck that you're gonna move out to the substation out in the county, is it servicing the bill okay now at the main station?
Yeah, I mean, we're running it every day. We run it every day.
That's what he said about every 5 years putting a turbo in it.
Yeah.
Would it be guess I'm thinking long-term about the
Mhm.
budget next year and what's gonna happen, but would it be cheaper to buy a smaller truck to go to one of the substations, to go to a substation, rather than buy a $350,000 truck for the main?
Oh, well, I mean, you're gonna be, I mean, you're still gonna be spending, you're gonna spend 275, 300,000 if you go buy quote-unquote a small truck. I mean,
So it's not much different.
you're not gonna save now. I'm thinking with this truck, we've never had a true rescue truck, and I'm just trying to think, down the road, with the way we're growing and, the need is there for that,
How many, you
to have
said it,
that.
you may have said it, I just don't hear you. How many runs, what percentage of your fire runs are rescue responses? It's more than 50%, isn't it?
well, yeah, I mean, the car wrecks basically is our
Extrication.
big, where we run the extrication and all that stuff. Yeah, I mean, we're running roughly half our call volume is responding and about, to a car accident, and we're 11-12% of those are an actual extrication where we come off and,
Having 14
have to do
miles of
something.
I-65 makes it a very unique situation for us, for rural
And
firefighters.
our two exits, 6 isn't bad, but exit 2 down there, and I don't know why, it's just busy, but, we have a lot of,
Any other questions on the fire truck?
Well, I just not on a fire truck, but it just popped in my mind.
Mhm.
That barricade that they put up in the middle of I-65. When you have a wreck on the southbound side,
mhm.
where do you have to go? You go up 31W and then hit the interstate, or how in the world do you get to it? 'Cause there's
Where are you
no
talking
cut-
about?
There's no cut through.
Where are you talking about at? I'm sorry.
Well, if the wreck's
Going
on the
north.
southbound.
Well, we
side-
have, there's a 10 and at the 14 are 2 turnarounds.
Oh, okay, so
So,
you
yeah,
can't cross.
we go to the 10 and turn around. So, I mean, one of our longest response times is if you happen to have a wreck at the 11 mile south, we gotta go all the way to the 14 and then turn and come back. And it does, it just takes a while to get there. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, that's a good
I
question.
just
And then again, at the state line, there's the one right going southbound at the state line. There's a turnaround there.
We will be discussing this again in January.
Yeah, at some point, I mean,
I think,
They-
well, I mean, it doesn't have to be in January, but I just think,
we need to, basically, we need to have a truck ordered before our next evaluation. And I don't know when that's gonna be, if, according to them, we should have got it this past year, so.
Are you going to ask the city commission?
I certainly can. We had a brief conversation just on, funding and revenues, and, we talked about the fact that, we paid off 20, so that money is, something that we're already accustomed to paying. Now, creating, bridging that gap there now, I mean, that's, and, I mean, I'm fine with that. I've not talked to them, but.
I didn't know, what do you think? Would he be, being he has the need, he can show the need, would it be better for him to ask?
well, I mean, I think that's a decision first. You all, I'm just suggesting that. You all have to decide that you want to, well, you gotta decide you want to buy a new fire truck. I mean, I think that's important, or at least decide that you kind of do enough that you got a number in mind that you can ask if you want to ask for the city to pay for part of it. I mean, ultimately, I just, that's your all's call.
Now, I will say, of course, truck 20, we funded for 10-year note. Truck 23 was bought, we bought it in, trying to remember when we bought, but we paid cash out of the general fund, I believe, wasn't it? But, so.
I'd also
I think
check,
we need to ask him.
I'd also
I think we need
have
to.
a bid sheet and talk to Keiko and see if they would talk to some vendors.
Yeah, I mean, I'll pursue that avenue. I don't know, like I said, because it's a custom, you put shelves in a certain spot and slide out trays and just, it's a different makeup. It's not the same on every vehicle.
I don't know that they will, but I know if we don't ask.
I mean, it's worth
If
asking.
we don't ask, the
That's
answer will
right.
definitely be no.
All right. Any other questions, Jim?
You all want to formulate some kind of a action item related to that, or not?
Like I said, we probably need to go ahead and say, yeah, we need to go buy the truck, but I would like to get the cities, I think the city ought to help us if we bought the last two.
Well, we can't even, he can't begin,
I can't put it out to bid. All I did was just solicit some.
there's no line item in our budget to
No.
buy a fire truck.
But I'm saying the first step ought to be to get the city's sign off to say, yeah, we're gonna participate 50/50. I mean, that's what I think, but I don't know what everybody else thinks.
You wanna put that in a motion?
I will.
I mean, I'm just, we need, excuse me, may need some action item for something moving forward.
Well, I think we agree we're gonna need to, but we're gonna buy the truck.
Yeah.
But if we ask the city to pay 50%.
Is that a motion?
Yep.
I'll second.
State your motion.
That we go ahead and agree to buy the truck and ask the city to pay half and half. The county pay half and the city pay half.
Okay, so the motion is to approve the request from the fire chief to move forward on purchasing a new, what'd you call it? A pumper?
Rescue pumper.
Rescue pumper. And to ask the city to share the cost of that purchase 50%, 50/50.
Now,
Is there a second, is there a second to the motion?
Wait,
Okay.
what if the city says no?
Come back,
We need the
we'll
truck.
come back to the table.
But we're agreeing to buy the truck and ask. Or we're agreeing to buy the truck only under conditions that they're gonna pay.
I think what you do is you, once they, if they say no, you come back, you can always undo what you've done by another motion.
You know, we won't be able to proceed, you all won't be able to proceed on anything until you make some financial provisions in the budget for it. He couldn't begin to order a truck. First thing they're gonna ask for is a PO.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're gonna, we don't have a place to put a PO for $350,000 for.
On the cold part.
No, she can't.
I just think we need to look, to be cautious of making sure we can make the payment on it.
Oh, absolutely.
Do we need to stretch it out to 12 years to make that payment smaller if the city doesn't agree to pay?
They typically won't finance on more than 10 years.
You're looking at about probably 40 a year then.
Okay, we got a motion and a second on the floor. Any other discussion on the motion? We gotta move on, folks. We got a busy day. Okay, Pam will vote on the motion.
Larry Randolph,
Yes.
Blake Hartley,
Yes.
Bobby Bush.
Yes.
Marty Chandler,
Yes.
Jim Henderson.
Yes. All right, motion passes.
All right,
We're
thank you,
done. Thank you. Okay, continuing under reports, these are kind of big ticket reports here. Bobby? They're in the mood to buy stuff.
I've done talked to Bobby about this morning.
We just amended the budget for a dump truck.
Yeah, the money you amended, here's.
We have the money for this.
Yeah.
We have cash in the bank today
Bobby?
to make this purchase,
No.
but we may not have cash in the bank when it's delivered. So we'll have to be careful about when we get this truck.
I got enough paper, thank you, Bobby.
Bobby,
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
hey, really briefly explain what we're doing.
This is what you have is a state-approved vendor for a truck. I'm wanting to replace one of our dump trucks, but this is for a tandem axle, equipped with snow equipment.
We talked about this a little bit last meeting, it was included, we included the $150,000 in our budget amendment.
If you look in the
road
back,
fund.
I went through there and crossed out some of their figures because they gave us options on these. So there's, the bottom line is that 148.5 would be with the options I've deducted off of some of theirs. The only thing I would add probably, and I didn't get a price on, is a couple $100. These trucks are all equipped with air brake trailers, but we have electric brake trailers. So our other dump trucks, we put just a electric brake package on them, which the last one, I think it was like $350. So, since the budget amendment was approved, it'll take at least 6 months to get this in our possession whenever we pull the trigger on it, so.
If you want to order it, we need to order it now to get it in before the end of the fiscal year. The budget amendment won't do us a bit of good if it's delivered after July 1. But I warn you, delivering anything, or purchasing, writing a check for anything out of the road fund in late May and June, you're going to have to be real careful about the cash flow. Gotta be real careful about any paving that's done toward the tail of the year. This bridge project, we get into it by the early summer, late spring, spending hundreds of thousands of dollars that we're out there and spent, we gotta get reimbursed for. We just about got in trouble about 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, I lose track. It was not all the same people handling all the money at the time, but anyway, we got overextended because of cash flow issues, and it kind of bit us before we realized it. So I don't think our treasurer's going to let that happen, but I want to warn you that we need to be thoughtful about the timing of this. So, what's the pleasure of the court?
So if we're gonna get it on time, we can go ahead and do something today.
Well, if you want to deliver it before the end of the year, which still may be a push.
Yeah. He felt comfortable if ordered in December, we should have it by the 1st of June.
Personally, I think the bridge work will probably be in next fiscal.
It could very well be, yeah.
But the labor work we're having to do on the land and everything, I don't think it'll be done in this fiscal year. What do you think?
I think that's probably
I
true.
think that is a safe assumption to make.
And
I'm sorry, it's not, I'm not,
Oh, I understand.
as I said, we're a little, I mean, we need an appraisal and a description, and then Ben can go to work. I
Right.
mean, but we need those first.
Yeah, and I saw they've staked off for the survey out there, it's a little slow getting that going.
Well,
Okay, what's pleasure?
I'll move,
Well, you go ahead and
I was gonna move to approve it up to 150. That gives him room to put the trailer package on it, because the truck is 148.5, so that gives him $1,500 and I don't think he'll spend $1,500 on it.
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion to authorize purchase of a new tandem axle dump truck from the state contract vendor, equipped for snow removal, cost not to exceed $150,000. Motion's been seconded. Pam will vote on the motion.
Marty Chandler,
Yes.
Blake Tarpley,
Yes.
Bobby Bush,
Yes.
Larry Randolph,
Yes.
Jim Henderson.
Yes. I'm making you girls nervous?
Thank you, fellas.
I know how you think.
We're getting the cold blues.
Obligating this money is making them nervous, I know. Making me a little nervous, just to be honest. Okay, let's see here.
Reports.
Yeah, I think I got the two biggies, I want to get those guys in pretty quick. What reports do you guys have, magistrates, any commission, committee, board assignments, reports from your respective duties?
I got a couple.
Yes, sir.
Want to commend the Franklin Central football team for state championship performance. Guys did a fantastic job. Terry D and I were sitting up there, I don't know whether everybody else was there or not, but I don't know that I've ever seen a more personalized effort than what we saw Saturday afternoon.
Here, here.
They did a good job. Bobby and I talked a little bit yesterday. Apparently, the park board has been unable, or the park director has been unable to get Dewey's Construction to rock the lot where the parking needs to be at the upper end of the baseball field. We talked a little bit about the county going ahead and rocking that part of it, and hopefully we can get them to build the road down, the access road that we were talking about, so we can get to the lower baseball field a little bit easier, the lower baseball field parking lot. But I would like for the court to agree to let Bobby go ahead and rock that parking lot, so we can have it ready by March 1st. The field we can put off until we see what action we can get out of Dewey's.
You're talking about there where everybody's parking anyway.
Yeah. I mean, it's there, it just needs to be rocked in case it's muddy.
You want to make a motion to do something on that?
Yeah. I don't know how much it'll be, we didn't talk about it, but it's not gonna be a tremendous amount of money, because we're gonna do it, dirt work, all we gotta do is haul a few loads rock, but I might get them for a motion.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. I'm not real crazy about the idea of rocking it up there. I'll just be honest with you. I'll vote.
I thought we were gonna have a long-range plan and make sure that was, they didn't wanna park a spot somewhere else. Where are we on all that? You know, we put that 200,000 out, where are we on the bathrooms and?
Bobby, Bill is going full steam ahead on trying to get concrete work done to refurbish the bathroom. I think he talked to us about that. And they're making, I mean, they're making some progress. They're getting some contractors to go out there and look at it and make some bids. I think that's what you asked.
Yeah, I just hadn't, you know, but, I know at one time they were talking about putting a gate up and shutting that road off.
It's there.
Yeah, it's there.
It's there. It's cut off. The road is to access the soccer field, so we move the soccer field from where it is now over to the two big fields.
But I didn't
The
think.
road would be, give them better access to that.
But I didn't think they was gonna put a gate up there because now you've blocked off the lower parking lot.
No, you go, they fix it so you can go around to the
Did
left.
they make another
You go
road?
around to the left by the Babe Ruth field and come in that way. to
But did they make another?
You gotta go all the way down to the bottom and come back around.
Well, that's a one-lane road, but you got two-lane traffic on it now. How does that work? Because you got people coming in and people going out, and that little crossing down there is only wide enough for
The
one
road's a
vehicle.
one-lane road going down beside the Babe Ruth field, and there's an access road coming out on the north side of that.
Yeah, that comes around to that parking lot.
But it's a
But then you have to
two-lane
use,
road everywhere else except right there.
but you also have to use that same road to get back out of that parking lot, do you not?
Yes.
So
No,
you,
not the one by the Babe Ruth field.
I'm talking about
When
the
you go
one
down
below
toward the
the
creek, when you go down toward the creek, it splits. When you go to the creek, you got one way going toward the creek, and then another way coming out of the creek.
Exactly.
Yeah, what he's saying, no, there's not a road down there wide enough to meet a car on. I mean, there's really
Because
not.
if you make a right and come up to that field, and you park for a little bit, when you leave, if there are people coming in, and you're going out, that road is not wide enough to make it for two lanes of traffic.
That little culvert there, I bet you couldn't meet a car there. I mean, people are going to pull off. This hadn't happened yet. I mean, we haven't seen the traffic patterns that will occur yet since this has been closed, right? I mean, since it closed it, there's not been anything going on down there to experience what you're talking about. I think you're right. You're going to immediately find
The
that.
road needs to be built going the other way. But it's gonna have to be engineered, they're gonna have a little bit of engineering done to it, and hopefully spend the money on it.
Let's vote on the motion. We got a motion on the floor. If there's any further discussion, or is there any further discussion? Okay, Pam will call the roll, please.
Larry Randolph,
Yes,
Blake Hartley,
Yes.
Bobby Bush,
Yes.
Marty Chandler,
No.
Jim Henderson.
No. All right, the motion passes 3-2, and Bobby, you work with the park on whatever it is they want to do with that parking lot and accommodate that request. Anything else, Larry?
nope,
Okay. Any other board magistrate reports, anything?
I probably shouldn't bring this up, but I'm going to.
Now listen, we've already had a conversation about when any of us start out a comment like that, that's the sign right there.
Well, I feel like at the last meeting, when we talked about these AEDs, we pretty much set ourselves up for a liability. Since we
I knew you were
talked about
gonna
them
do
and we did not vote on them. So I am going to revisit that issue, and I'm gonna move for what I did the first time, that we buy 4 new ones under the emergency director's recommendation. And then we put these, where he recommends us put them. Because I feel like if we do not do this and somebody falls over dead with a heart attack, they can somehow or another say that these could have saved a life, that we have set ourselves up for a lawsuit.
I'll second
Okay, we've got a motion and a second to approve the purchase of 4 new. Nelson, what does the AED stand for again?
It's an automatic external defibrillator.
Okay, because Bob Palmer's out of the office today. And so I knew that Les and Nelson would understand the terminology. So 4 new AEDs, and to allow the emergency management director to assign them where he finds most needed.
At the locations he stated at the
Right,
last meeting.
okay. And its motion has been made and it has been seconded. Any further discussion?
I don't disagree with what you said, but do we want one of those things accessible to the public that don't know how to operate it?
They're accessible everywhere you go to the public. You go right down here, Purdue Elevator, there's one hanging on the wall down there.
Go to First Baptist Church, I think
They're-
Did you all look at that YouTube video that Bob sent out to us?
Yes.
It was pretty interesting. It's about a 7-minute video. I felt a little better informed after reading or watching that on how they work.
I don't feel like that, you know, like I say, I've been in a lot of places, you know, even in airports, I've seen in airports and stuff, there's all kinds of those places that you've seen. So I don't think I don't think you would have a problem with it.
Any other discussion? Please feel free. Yes, I'm sorry, Pam, just clarify the motion.
I do want a clarification on where they're gonna be.
We're going to allow
You
the
said at
emergency,
last.
allow
He
the
said Justice
emergency
Center.
management director to determine the location was your
But
motion.
at the last meeting, he said one at the Justice Center, one at the courthouse, one at the clerk's office, and one to keep in his vehicle,
Okay.
if I remember correctly.
The current motion is wherever in his discretion he thinks they need to be.
But that's where he,
But he had
Suggest-
added to that, like, that's why I wanted
Right,
clarification
right,
on
okay.
that. And I wanted to state that in the motion.
yeah,
Is
that, put that in my
okay?
motion, because that was his recommendation at the last meeting.
Okay, got a motion and a second on the floor.
No.
Any further discussion on the motion? Did you have a question, Bobby?
Well, I just went and talked to the ambulance service, and I went and talked to some people at the fire department, and I understand more about what they are. I would like to see them covered by 2, but I don't see the need for 4. But he said last week that he wanted to cover the Justice Center and him, and the courthouse here, and 2 at the Justice Center. Was that not correct?
No.
That
He
wasn't
said he
correct?
could do 2 at the Justice Center, but he wanted.
One at the clerk's office,
Clerk's office,
one here,
one here.
one at the Justice Center, and the 4th one in his truck.
I misunderstood him.
I think is what he said. I think you're right.
Now, that part is correct. But when he was asked, he said he could do 2 at the Justice Center, but that's not what he originally asked for.
Right.
Okay, we've got a motion on the floor. We've had a lot of discussion at the prior meeting and some discussion now. Is everybody ready to vote?
Question?
Okay, we'll vote on the motion. Pam, if you'll call the roll, please.
Marty Chandler,
Yes.
Blake Tarpley,
Yes.
Bobby Bush,
No.
Larry Randolph,
Yes.
Jim Henderson.
Yes. All right, motion passes, and we'll order some AEDs and hopefully never need to use them.
Amen.
Any other reports from the magistrates? Sam, you got anything other than the tax spiel?
Already talked about the fire department thing. Still minor setback with the interlocal or the cooperation agreement with the school about the jail thing, and we're gonna have to back up and punt on that. So, sorry, Jim, I don't think we're gonna get that done before you're gone.
My feelings are not hurt.
And you've already covered taxes, so I'll hush up.
All right, thank you, Sam. Okay, John, I'm sorry, I could have called on you on that AED, I didn't see you sitting there. Constitutional officers, Eric, you've already had your turn.
He's up on something.
Yeah,
I ain't have nothing else.
okay. Jerry D, you got anything?
Yeah, just briefly.
Yes, sir.
Just be aware, we had an accident the other night. Steve, we got 2 deputies that are out now. Don't need anything, just letting you know we're a little short of manpower. Got one that had broke his ankle, he'll be back the end of January. Now Steve Burke had an auto accident the other night. He's having surgery as we speak on his wrist, probably be out for a month or 2 on that too. May have a total vehicle, getting estimates on it as we speak. And let you know something on the next meeting if you have any questions.
You've got an officer in the academy right now, I talked to him the other day. He's
We
been
do.
there for, what, 6 months or so? He's been in there,
Yeah.
he's almost out.
Realize, Bobby and I were talking, if I hire Sam as a deputy today, it's gonna be a year and a half before he hits the road. Takes 4 months just to get it approved. Then you gotta get an academy date, and they're gonna put you off for 6 months. They're gonna say, well, you can start in June.
Right.
And then 6 months to get out, then you do 4 months field training, 3 to 4 months. So, the guy that's getting out is actually our animal control guy. He
Yeah.
was an MP in the military, wanted to expand his knowledge, which was a great opportunity. I think he's here to probably stay. You know, we talked about it being competitive with other places, people leaving. I think he's wanted to probably stay here and everything. So he'll be getting out Friday, going up to see him graduate, 3 months of field training, then he'll take back his animal control duties. But he's also a full officer, so he can make better decisions. And help
I knew he was
us.
getting close, I couldn't remember when, so I did one more, if you'll have it.
Anything else?
Thank you, Sheriff. Joanne, anything?
I do, actually. As you all can imagine, with the election year coming upon us, we've had several individuals come in and file, several papers out, and I'm sure before January 30th, we'll have more to come in. I'd like to address the court on the potential move of the county clerk's office to the historic courthouse. I'd like to give you gentlemen something just to think about. And excuse me for reading it, but I went to the office early this morning and just jotted down some thoughts that I had. A member of every household in Simpson County comes into the county clerk's office at least once a year, and often more times than that. We have industries, businesses, surveyors, abstractors, bankers, and attorneys, and car dealers that come in on a daily basis. I would ask that you reach out to these professionals and get their thoughts and opinions on this proposed move. Before we can have an informed discussion of a move such as this, we would need to see a detailed scale drawing of the renovations that you all have in mind. I think we need to talk to the Commonwealth of Technology, software management, the ADA, and see if the logistics of this move will even work. We need to get a complete cost analysis of what it's going to take to make this courthouse as accessible to the public as our office is now to the public. I would encourage you as court members to speak to these citizens, specifically the elderly and the handicapped, as well as the professionals, while you consider this impact that this move will have on our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Joanne. I concur with your thoughts there. Any comments or questions on that? Anybody want to address any of those issues yet?
I guess the only thing I'd say is, just sitting down there while I was doing my filing, noticing the people coming in and out, especially the older people, that's my main concern, is them getting in and out of this building, safely. So I think that's one of the big considerations.
Well, when Marty came in to pick his papers up, or when he came to pick his papers up, there was a gentleman who is on a walker, and he doesn't walk, he shuffles. And I can't imagine the steps. Well, Marty saw the steps that it took him to get just into our door. I went and held the door open for him. And he didn't have shoes on. He had on the, I guess it's the therapeutic socks or something, is what he had on. And he was shuffling. And I can't imagine, as long as it took him to get into just off of the sidewalk, what it would take for him to get into the courthouse. So I just ask that you just talk to the public about it, consider the handicapped and the elderly, and let them be your voice.
You know, if we study this building, we probably need to have a pretty good idea of what we're going to have to spend on that building to get it the condition that it needs to be.
Yeah.
So we probably need both numbers.
Probably so. That's a good point. You're right.
Because
Probably
that
so.
one's going to require
Yeah.
quite a bit.
Well, the
of
floor is
repair.
the biggest issue right now. Of course, you all have seen the floor and how it's dropping and continues to drop. So that's the biggest issue right now, is the floor. Of course, we continue to grow. I mean, the mortgages and deeds we are recording on a daily basis. When I first started in 1990, it's amazing how many we record now versus then. So
I'm not sure that, as a county, we don't need an office storage site secured for records from her office in the court, in case of a fire or something, documents that need to be preserved, or just to have a separate building away from everything. that is secure just to have, just store documents.
Yeah, that was one of the discussions that Jolene and I had in general, not just about this facility, but about the pure space requirements that are gonna be out there, no matter where the county clerk's office is located in the future. And there's gonna have to be some consideration for alternate ways to store records, either on-site, off-site. And, you know, I certainly don't understand all the library and archives rules with regards to some of the records that are housed in the county clerk's office. I do know that some things, for example, with the court system, are able to be, at some age, archived somewhere else, and then access to that information is more electronic, and those kind of things. I know that part of what Jolene has been doing with some of her grants lately is to do more electronic archiving of things. And if you've been in the office in the last few years, you've seen what used to be a document that was recorded for a deed transaction and a mortgage go from this, thanks to Dodd-Frank and other huge government overreach into our lives, now to this size of a document. So you can fill up a mortgage book, a deed book, at much faster pace than they used to. So there are some real challenges going forward, period, with regard to on-site storage of records. And so I think that's a real conversation. Again, regardless of where the office is what do you do? Because there's absolutely no growth potential in that particular building. I mean, it's maximized. We did a quick measurement of the building, and I think there's about 2,500 square feet on the first floor of usable space in the annex building. The space that we have available here that might be available in a scenario here, about 3,000 square feet, but it's much differently laid out, and it creates some challenges. I mean, we spent a day, nearly half a day, Jolene and Bill and I, and Pam Womack going through this building, talking about how that might work. So either place creates some challenges for the future. You all need to be thinking about that. So
Just so you know, showing my age, 25 years ago, when I first started lawyering, a mortgage, we prepared 2 to 2.5 pages tops, depending on how long the legal description was. And now a mortgage is at least 10 to 12 pages, more, usually more.
yeah, nothing that government gets involved in is
And
more efficient.
it was a
and,
perfectly valid mortgage that you could foreclose on if need be. I mean, there was nothing wrong with it.
It never costs less money, it's never more efficient, and never takes less time. How about that?
Y'all all remember, I bought a farm at auction in '95 and had no idea I was know about when I went to the auction. And wrote a check and called the bank on Monday morning, told them wrote the check, and he said, I come on by in a few days.
Yeah, those days are sure gone, aren't
Y'all
they?
do that now?
I'm sorry,
For those
Jolene.
of you that have been in the deed room, I think you, the latest deeds and mortgages, we have a new system where the cabinets actually slide in front of each other. And that gives us more space, so the old deeds, we can put those on something like that. So that's gonna create a little bit more space in the next few years.
The circuit clerk's office, when we built the Justice Center, if you've not seen that, of course, not many times you would have a reason to be behind the front desk there, but they have, it's a cranked, it's basically an accordion of shelves. And it's a much, much more efficient use of space where you can literally, roll out. You can take what would have taken 2 rooms and put into basically, a
Just
room.
roll out what you need. And go
Well,
and get
they all open up like an accordion to wherever you're
Basically,
going.
you can smash them all together, and if you need, you go 5 which aisles, you go down, and you move that one apart to get into.
That would make any space more efficient, again, whether it's in this building or in the annex building. Okay, we're running really close on time, guys. We've got a lot of stuff to do today. Let's go around to our department heads that haven't already given us a report. Who in the back? I can't see back there. Nobody else back there? Okay. Megan, anything? Nicole? Okay. The executive session we have scheduled is for a discussion of property disposition discussion, which would be an exception to the open meetings law, KRS 61.810 subsection 1, meetings of a quorum of the members of any public agency where they are discussing the future acquisition or sale of real property by a public agency. And that is probably the only thing I know of that we would need a very, very brief closed session. I just want to touch on something that you need to be thinking about that might come up sooner than later. Anything else that you all know for closed session? Need a motion to go into closed session pursuant to that exception. Motion by Blake, second by Marty. Any questions on the motion? Pam will call the roll, please.
Blake Hartley.
Yes.
Marty Chandler.
Yes.
Bob Bush.
Yes.
Larry Randolph. Jim Henderson.
Yes. Okay, we are in closed session, and